Good morning from St. Petersburg, Florida on a rainy day. Yeah, we're getting a little rain today. It's nice out though. It's Tuesday, October 14th. It's 10:51 a.m. and all's well here in St. Petersburg, but we're getting a little rain. I like it. Puts water in the pool so we don't have to pay to put water in the pool. Everything's an expense. That's the way life gets to be sometimes. Everything costs money. So when you don't have to pay out money, it's a plus. What you don't pay is what you earn. That's the way I look at it. So here's a nice shot of St. Petersburg City. We'll take a look and see what the waterfront is doing. See if people are, no, boy, they're getting it. When you see something like this, they're getting the rain. So let's see if they pan around. And this could just be a few blocks, away from the street view. But they're getting a nice rain over there in the waterfront. We'll let him pan around a bit. Take another little look at how nice and clear and shiny that looks. How when it rains, it just makes things look like glass here in St. Petersburg. So let's have a look at the weather. See what's going on in the weather. Let's take this to full view like this. There, got a full view. Seattle, Washington, 56 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 56 degrees. Hayward, California, 60 degrees. Tokyo, Japan, 66 degrees. San Antonio, Texas, 59 degrees. Toledo, Ohio, 69 degrees. Los Angeles, California, 67 degrees. Denver, Colorado, 43 degrees. St. Petersburg, Florida, 75 degrees. Corpus Christi, Texas, 66 degrees. San Francisco, California, 64 degrees. And Tampa, Florida, 80 degrees. Charleston, North Carolina, 73 degrees. New York, 72 degrees. Santa Fe, New Mexico, 37 degrees. Look at that. Santa Fe is, well, I think Santa Fe is about 8,000 feet. So, it's getting kind of cool in Santa Fe, New Mexico at 37 degrees. Amsterdam, Netherlands, another cool one, 55 degrees. Santa Rosa, California, 60 degrees. Gaza, 79 degrees. Tel Aviv, 79 degrees. Jerusalem, Israel, 79 degrees. Hilo, Hawaii, 72 degrees. Rotterdam, Netherlands, 57 degrees. In Hong Kong, China, I think they're getting things straightened out in Hong Kong, China. They're kind of battling with each other a little bit. It's not bad. They haven't gone about killing people yet. We'll see how that turns out. 79 degrees in Hong Kong, China. Ferguson, Missouri, 57 degrees, and it was raining there yesterday. We'll have to check it out and see what's happening in Ferguson, Missouri today. But Ferguson, Missouri is back in the news. Mainstream media is back there covering it. Got some streamers out there covering it. Yesterday was Peaceful Monday or Get Happy Monday or something. Some kind of Let's All Protest Monday. But Ferguson, Missouri is back in the news. I want to talk a little bit about Ferguson, Missouri, but before I do, I am going to do a little bit of running around here, and let's check out what the chats are doing this morning. I went ahead because I'm interested in people getting out the vote, doing what you can to let people know that they should vote. For many of us, it's too late to register. I already registered. Today we'll send in our ballots. I thought I sent in my ballot yesterday, but it'll go in today one way or another. But I've got a new little reminder on the top of our live stream page. And I may go ahead and drop that in all of the pages, but most of our traffic comes to the live stream page. And election day is 20 days away, 14 hours, 4 minutes, and 45 seconds to election day. And so if you haven't registered to vote in Florida, it's too late. We've already gotten our ballots in the mail, so it's too late to register. But in other states, I don't know, maybe it isn't. And maybe you can register on election day. Maybe they don't have, what I'm thinking about is to get your ballot by the mail. It might be too late to register. But Google it. Find out in your area when you can vote, because voting is the most important thing that you can do as an American citizen. Protesting and complaining is a way of getting the issues out to the public, getting the issues out to the majority who may not know all of the problems. And then they may not care. So come November, we're going to find out if any of the issues in the past 2 years has gotten to the people who don't care, are happy with their life. And, they can go either way, Democrat or Republican. They don't care who's running things because in their mind, it doesn't affect them. But a lot's happened in the past 2 years. And, the Republicans have tried very hard to get rid of Obamacare, AKK, the Affordable Care Act. They've tried very hard. They've tried everything legally. They've tried every scare tactic possible. And at this time, they haven't been able to get it so that we can't get affordable health care. But this is what I think will happen if the Republicans win. I don't think they're going to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. What they may do is redesign it, give it a different name, and just add a few things here and there, and then they're going to claim it for their own. But President Obama doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens to the Affordable Care Act as long as whatever happens is a good, positive thing. He doesn't care if he's remembered for the Affordable Care Act, although he always will. And I know that in time, President Obama is going to go down as one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. As we continue to move forward and we continue to fight racism and discrimination and a lot of other things that President Obama is helping us fight, he'll go down as one of the most progressive presidents in our time. And all you have to do is Google his accomplishments, because all we hear in the news are the things that are going wrong. And most of the time, they're not even things that are going wrong. Them aren't even things that are going wrong. Them are problems they'd like to have so that it gets in the way of what the president is trying to do. We hear things about Mexicans have a lower approval rating for the president. I personally think that's bullshit. Now, if they talk to some immigrants that come into the United States and they're not happy with what the president is doing, that's a problem for them. But as a Hispanic, I don't have any problems with the President of the United States. And I'm not speaking for all Hispanics, like some of the immigrants are pretending they do. They want this problem solved, and you can't blame them. Who in the hell would want to live in Mexico if they didn't have to? Who would want to live in Colombia if they didn't have to? Now, there's a chatter that lives in Mexico, and he speaks highly of Mexico, but then he's not a Mexican. And he's afforded different opportunities than the Mexican people. There's a lot of Mexicans. Mexico has a two-tier system. There's poor and rich. Now, the Americans that live there, that own property there, may be considered rich in Mexico. They might be lower middle class here in the United States. But I can understand them, giving the thumbs up to Mexico because they live in a different place. They don't have to live in the slums of Mexico. They don't have to live amongst the poor people in Mexico. So yeah, they're giving it the big old thumbs up. They're making money. They're Americans. They've got, an American company there, or work for an American company there that may be avoiding taxes, may not, can't say for sure. Not all companies that go overseas avoid taxes, but a lot of them do, and that's why they're there. Cheap labor and to avoid taxes, why a lot of people leave the United States. But when you leave the United States, you leave the protection of the United States. And that's why they're having all the problems that they're having in Iraq and in Syria. We know it's about oil. We know it's American companies want our troops on the ground, not to save the Syrians, not to save the people of Iraq, but to save them oil wells. They want our American kids who were poor here in the United States and the only job that they could get is in the military. I don't care. They figured out them damn kids weren't going to do nothing anyway. Let's send them over to Iraq, and if they get killed, so what? They're out of the system. They're out of the system. We don't have to worry about them becoming drug addicts. We don't have to worry about them being on welfare. We don't have to worry about them having tons of children that we're going to have to pay for. That's what a lot of people think. So let's put them in the military. Who cares if they live or die? And we'll send them to places like Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, anywhere in South America to fight for American interests, American corporations. But they're not fighting for America. So if you're an American and you live in Mexico, yeah, life is good for you. But you know as well as anybody that life is not good for the poor Mexican people. It's a two-tier system. We've known it for a long time. If it was good in Mexico, we wouldn't have so many immigrants coming to the United States. You don't hear about the poor people of the United States going to Mexico, leaving the United States to go to Mexico to try to make a better life. You only hear about people, who have a company or who have some kind of idea that they can develop it in Mexico and they can't develop it here because of regulations and our laws. So they go to Mexico and Guatemala. They get involved in business. What kind of business they get involved in, I don't know. I can't say. I won't even speculate. But it's their choice to do that, to go to Mexico and, build a life for themselves. And, that's okay. A lot of people travel all over the world. They leave their home countries. I hate homeland. I hate that word. But they leave their home countries and they go to other countries because they can make a better life for themselves and their families in another country. Either the company that they work for has moved and they went with it, or they had some cash and they took it and they had a better chance of making a living in another country that they couldn't make either in the United States or in their own country, so they leave. Or they have money and they just want to be in another country. They like the adventure. They're not loyal to any one country. But again, when something goes wrong, they expect for their country to come to their aid. And most of them don't have a problem. They're pretty smart people. They don't go to places that are war-torn, for one thing. They don't go to places where the economy is crashing, for another thing, to start up a business. They go to a country that, can support them, can support their ideas. And because Mexico has a lot of poor people, that doesn't mean that you can't do well in Mexico. I watch these programs that they remodel homes and things like that, and I watch Mexico. Used to be you could buy a really nice house in Mexico, dirt cheap. If you had $50,000, you can get you a mansion. Don't try it now. Don't try it now because the Mexican people know that the Americans and other people, the Germans, the French, the Italians, the English, Canadians, they're all going to Mexico and buying up that land. But you don't have any protection from your country. You can run to the embassies or the consulates, whatever they call them. I've never left the United States. I'm not real familiar who you run to and how it works. But I would guess that if you get in trouble in another country, it's hard to get support. Then again, I don't know. It probably depends on how much money you got as to how they're going to mess with you. If you're just a little millionaire or you got yourself a couple of $300,000 in the bank, they'll take that money away from you and keep it. And what are you going to do about it? You have to have a lot of pull and a lot of power, or just make sure you stay the hell away from their system, their legal system. So that's my little opinion on that. Let's and again, vote. If you've registered, make sure that you send in your ballots. Don't be, well, I forgot. They made it as easy as they possibly can, other than coming to the house and checking the boxes for you and signing the ballot for you, buying a stamp and bringing it to you, licking it themselves and putting it on the envelope. I don't know how much easier they can make it to vote. But it is your responsibility. And there is a lot of truth. If you don't vote, don't complain. I used to say if you pay taxes, you can complain all you want to. I'm not of that belief anymore. You don't have a choice whether you pay taxes or not. You do have a choice whether you vote or not. And if you don't vote, don't complain. Because you do have a chance to make some changes. You know, I was talking about this in OPN yesterday, and somebody, and I said, you know, you can find good people. You can find good people to run. And, you know, somebody asked me, well, where do you find these good people? He thought he was being sarcastic. And I told him, I asked, well, did you vote? Did you get a ballot? Have you seen your ballot? Are you up with the elections? Have you been paying attention to the elections? Or are you just sitting back and complaining? Because it's right there on your ballot. These are the people that you have a choice. Now, these people just didn't fall out of the sky today. These people have been working on this for years. We've known what was going to be on these ballots for years. If you wanted to look, if you wanted to pay attention, if you wanted to do something other than complain, we've known what these ballots were going to look like. We knew who's up for election. We know that here in Florida, that we have our governor that we're trying to get rid of. We know that. And if you only voted for the governor and you didn't leave anything else checked because that's all you wanted to do, then let that be all you do. But all of the other people and laws that are in place on that ballot are just as important as that governor. They're all important or they wouldn't be there. We also have the pot law. We want to make it legal to give people medical marijuana here in Florida. I'll bet you that that's going to bring a lot of people out, and Charlie Crist may have got in the race at the right time. But Republicans smoke pot. Charlie Crist used to be a Republican and an independent. So they try to make an issue of him being this big flip-flopper. Well, I look at it this way. We've got to get Rick Scott out. That's just got to happen. And if you look at Charlie Crist, he may have been an independent, he may have been a Republican, but hopefully he has support amongst Republicans, and hopefully he has support amongst the independents, and hopefully the Democrats will support him now. I heard him say he loves President Obama. Bill Clinton was here campaigning for him. So hopefully, we can get this done. We can get a new governor and start turning Florida blue. If we can't turn it blue, purple would be nice. Purple would be nice. I think that the rich people should be represented in our government as a matter of law, because our law says no taxation without representation. If you don't want the rich people in our government, stop charging them taxes. And then you can get them out of our government. They will leave so damn fast, it'll make everybody's head spin. You worry about money in government, stop charging the rich people taxes. Because that's what it says, no taxation without representation. That's why the rich people are there. They're exercising their rights as American citizens. No matter whether we like them or not, no matter if they cheat, no matter what they do, it's their right to have representation in Washington. And the Republicans are doing that. And doing a damn good job of it. There's people out there saying that, people shouldn't vote. The system is corrupt. Both sides are bad. That's what they say. The only people that even listen to people like that are going to be Democrats and independents and some other whack job. The Green Party and some of these other whack jobs that in their mind think that one day they're going to rule the country. It's not going to happen. We will see Democrats and Republicans running this country until the day I die, if I die a natural death. My doctors tell me I got about 30 more years That'll put me at 91. And at 91, I'll be a grumpy old man here telling you to get out and vote. And telling you how, for the past 70-something years, 72 years, 73 years, I've been voting. I think it's my responsibility. And anybody that I talk to in the brick and mortar world, I think, that it's their responsibility. And I do ask them, are you going to vote? Did you vote? And if they say no, I say, well, it's really, I'll go and give them the spiel. It's how important it is to vote. Okay, you missed the boat this time. You're going to get another chance in 2 years. Try to be there. Try to support the people who are trying to support you, because the Democrats are supporting the poor. And they're trying to keep people from becoming poor. So, I'll be suggesting the Democrats. I don't know any rich people that would need my opinion nor my help. I don't know any. But if they ask me why do I vote Democrat, I'll tell them. And I would understand why they vote Republican. Although the Republicans don't help all of the rich, they mostly help the really rich. $1 million isn't making you rich anymore these days. $1 million is putting you in the upper middle class. $1 million used to mean you were rich. I got $1 million, I'm rich, yahoo. You can burn $1 million pretty damn easy. You're not rich. Rich means that you can get everything you want and still have some money left over to do it again if you want to. Rich means you don't have to worry about your money. Rich means that no matter how stupid you get, you'll still have money. Everything else will be middle class, middle class, lower middle class, and poor. And even poor has a degree of how poor you are. There's the regular poor. I'm the regular poor. Then, there's like the middle class poor. And then there's the extremely poor. Homeless. You have hit as low as you can go. You don't have a house, nor a pot to piss in, nor a window to throw it out. You don't have anything. You're eating out of garbage cans. You're just trying to survive. Never mind the luxuries that most of us enjoy. Heat in the winter and cool in the summer. Health care. Well, when you're really that poor, you do have health care. People talk about our healthcare system in the United States, and poor people have a better chance at getting healthcare than the middle class, really. Middle class people don't want to pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars in doctor bills, but most middle class people have insurance, and now the insurance they have cost them less thanks to President Obama. And it's all brought on by voting. It's all brought on by voting. Getting people out of poverty will be brought on by voting. Voting the right people in. That's what'll happen. It's just common sense. Let's have a look at St. Petersburg. See what the weather looks like in St. Petersburg. Looks like it wants to quit raining. There we go. Got a nice view. But if you've got your ballot just sitting there on the counter and you haven't filled it out, get it filled out, get it sent in. That way nothing will happen to it. And should something happen to you, at least we'll have your vote. You never know when something's going to happen to you. You never know when you're going to get sick, deathly sick. You never know when you're going to be on death's door. So get that ballot filled out and on its way. Take it to the post office if you have to, but don't let it sit. Don't wait until the last minute. If it's coming to your house, they've made it as easy as they can possibly make it. So get it filled out. Do a little research. I found out yesterday that when it comes to judges, that they don't have a Democrat or a Republican, a D or an R next to their name. And kind of the easy end of it is that they're supposed to represent all of us. But you can find out who appointed them, if they were appointed. You can find out, certain things about them to see how they ruled, and you could see what kind of judges that they actually are. If they're always ruling against poor people, well, you don't want them. You don't want them in there. They're not a fair judge. So there's things you can find out about the judges, and you can see whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, because you're one or the other. I don't care if you're a judge or not. You're a Democrat or you're a Republican. You still vote, and you still have an idea of how this country should be. And the Republicans feel that the government should take care of the rich, and the rich will take care of the poor. And the Democrats feel that the government should take care of the poor, and the rich can take care of themselves. So you can look at that judge and see how he's been voting. And if he has been voting one way or another, he's been voting in them two categories. Either he's been voting for the rich, or he's been voting for the poor. Or if he's a fair judge, he's been voting for who's ever right. And then you can make your decision that way. But you have to still research, and a lot of people don't want to do that. It's just too much trouble for them to find out all of this information. Then, of course, here in Florida, we're dealing with medical marijuana. I think, I voted yes, I want medical marijuana. And when it's legal, I will be trying to get it, because I don't know all of the laws here in Florida, what happens to you exactly, but I kind of read it a little bit, and it's not real good news what they'll do to you if they catch you with pot in Florida. In Colorado, before it was legal, if you got caught with a certain amount, they can take your house and your car if you can't prove how you got the house and how you got the car. That's some of the things they'll do to you. And then they may just fine you and take that stuff from you anyway. So if you're out there making a good living selling weed, for example, and you've got a little job doing something, for example, and you managed to get yourself a loan, maybe you saved a little of that pot money, and you put down a good sized down payment so that the bank would say, okay, your little job with this kind of down payment, because the bank can't ask you where you get the money from. They can't do that. Of course, it does go to the federal government, and then the federal government can ask you. But you can get your payments down to where, say, you're a carpenter or a plumber or something like that, and you want this really nice house, and you got yourself a couple of $300,000 selling weed stashed in the backyard somewhere, and you put that as a down payment. But when you put money in the bank now, anything over $10,000, I believe, gets reported to the federal government. So all of it's become really tricky. It's getting hard to trick the federal government. So, a lot of people aren't buying big fancy houses. They're buying a little house and just fixing it up. And that's one way of doing it. One way of beating the system, if that's what you decide you want to do. But here in Florida, I don't know, and I'm not going to take a risk with our property over a joint. But when it's legal, I go, yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. And when they say that we can grow it, I'm going to grow it. I'll grow my own. I said before, I used to make wine. I'd love to grow pot. I'd love to become a pot connoisseur. Yeah, I would. So let's take a look around. Let's see what's going on in the chats. See who's saying what they're talking about. See if they're busy. Let's do this and this. Yeah. In the chat. Okay. My chat is slow. That's normal. We've got dissenters at 3. 3 viewers and dissenters. Tokyo 1, Donald 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't know who the third viewer is. They may be stashed out. Let's go into this. And we've got Chalupa Batman and Tokyo 1 are the moderators. Artstarzz is listed there. Crusader 1954 is in there, and Donald 1, 2, 3, 4 is in there. and they're in dissenters. Tokyo is usually talking about Syrian freedom. A lot of things going on with Syrian freedom. A lot of people want the United States to put boots on the ground. They want us involved. They want our kids over there fighting for them. It was on the news the other day how Turkey is just standing on its border and it's not doing anything. It's waiting and it's telling the United States to get involved. That's what Turkey is saying. So, the United States, President Obama has said it over and over and over again, we are not going to put boots on the ground. We are not. He may be forced to do it. He may be forced to put boots on the ground. I don't know. I say no. Period. Whatever we're going to fight for in Iraq or Syria, the oil we have here in the United States, we can pull back and let the best man win over there, or the strongest. And if they get big enough, then we don't have to worry about the innocent people anymore. If they don't want to fight for themselves and they figure it's easier to join ISIS than it is to fight, well, then they're no longer innocent. And if they decide that in a few years that they want to attack the United States because we're pulling out, we don't have to buy oil from them anymore. We can sell to the people that they'll be selling oil to and put them right out of business. And all of this fighting is for nothing. Then they can turn the whole place into a religion zone. They can spend their days, they don't need oil anymore. They can figure out another way to feed their people. And they can pray all day long without a problem. Cut the heads off of people who don't pray like they do. They can do that. It's none of our business. It's a thankless job. We go over there, it's a thankless job. We didn't get not one thank you for getting Saddam Hussein out of there. Instead, we got just the opposite. It's all our fault. Even to the point where ISIS is our fault because we didn't stop them fast enough. It was our job to stop ISIS fast enough. Give me a break. They said the same thing about Gaza. We didn't stop Hamas fast enough. It's Israel's fault. It's the United States' fault. I say let them kill each other. And don't be sending our kids over there. Let them fight over what they got. And then when a leader finally emerges, decide if we're going to deal with them or not. But if you feel that they're just a pain in the ass, whoever takes over, don't deal with them. But there's people around the world that don't care. They want to make money. That's what they want to do. And they're going to deal with the devil. They don't care. And that's just the reality of the world as it is, as it's always been. It's always been that way. It's nothing new. They aren't doing anything new. They talk about terrorism and cutting people's heads off and burying, hundreds of people in a mass grave. Let them go to Central America if they think that's new. South America, I mean. Let them go to South America. Let them deal with the cartels. And see how tough they are. The cartels have been doing that for a very long time. And cartels go in and wipe out whole towns in South America. Don't think it doesn't happen today. It does. They cut people's heads off. They cut body parts and send it to the family. They bury hundreds of people out in the desert. Hundreds. So it happens. And it's going to continue to happen. As long as they have a market. Shut down the drug market, you'll stop all that killing. That's why legalizing pot is such a problem for the cartels. If you legalize pot, it's a problem for them. They lose revenue. They lose revenue because the price starts to drop. But if you keep that price up there, if you keep the price up there even though it's legal, then they'll find a way to get involved. They're already doing it in Colorado. They're already tracing a lot of these new businesses popping up in Colorado back to the cartels. They've got their dummy people running these little businesses. Everybody knew that was going to happen. It isn't a surprise that the cartels have business in Colorado. It's not a surprise. But when they catch them, they shut them down and put them in prison. And that won't stop them. They've been going to prison forever. That's why the prisons are full of a lot of these gangs. You're not going to stop them. But at least you have them localized. You can spot them a lot easier. You know, you can watch them a lot easier. See who's coming and going. It makes it a lot easier to catch them. And a lot harder for them to sell their goods. If their goods are being sold in the United States cheaper, then they can produce it and transport it and do all the stuff that it takes to get weed into the United States. Cocaine and heroin and now methamphetamine, all of that stuff. Start legalizing it. That's all you got to do. You don't have to participate in the sale of it, but just legalize it. And let the people who want it have it. If they say, oh no, it's going to ruin our youth. No, it's not going to ruin your youth any more than it would ruin them now. All these laws haven't stopped the cartels and the drug dealers from selling stuff in the United States. All of these laws haven't stopped any of that. But the drug dealers continue to make money. But some people might say, well, you know, if these laws ain't stopping them, if these politicians ain't stopping them, well, then why vote? Well, the reason that you vote is so that you'll have something at least working in the direction of stopping them. You can't just throw up your hands and say, well, that's it, you know, we can't do nothing about it, so let's just quit. No, you figure out a different way to play the game. And it is a game. For some people, it's just a game. Billions of dollars are at stake. And after you have so much money, it becomes a game. That's all there is to it. So, in dissenters, they are discussing some of the stuff that's happening in the Middle East. You can pretty much, once you see Tokyo 1, there's going to be conversation in the Middle East. So then we go over to Dissenters Information Network. And Crusader 1954 is doing what Crusader always does, drops links and tells Art good morning. There's Crusader was in there at 10:57. Let's take a look and see who's in there. You got the moderators, Crusader 1954, Artstarzz is in there, and Revolutionista is in there. Okay. You know, I was watching a movie or a clip of something the other day where this young gal was protesting, I believe in Ferguson, and she said, we've already had the revolution. It's time for a change. And she's right. All of this, we've got to have a revolution, you know, is just immature people thinking that the only way to solve their problem is through a revolution. Well, you need a lot of people to have a revolution if you're going to have it in the United States. And for most parts, you really got to have a good issue, even to get the people to participate in a demonstration. Ferguson and Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, they're leading in police brutality, but it's pretty much a one-issue thing. They have the opportunity to organize the people to vote, to register. I hope they did it. They said that there was a 30% rise in the registrations, people voting. I don't know if it was in Missouri or Ferguson or St. Louis, but they do have a rise in people registering to vote. Because the only way you're going to fix this is by voting. Some people don't think so. Some people don't think you can fix the problems in Ferguson by voting. Well, I disagree. Ferguson got the way it is because people didn't participate in their government. Just because somebody is black, that doesn't mean that you vote them in. You've got to see what their skills, their management skills are. How are they going to increase the revenue in Ferguson without destroying the people? The police department has to be paid. And the lower the wage, the lower skill you're going to get when you go to hire people. You aren't going to get the best of the best if you can't afford to pay for the best of the best. There's a lot of cops that are educated. There's a lot of cops that actually like being a cop because they like helping. But you're not going to get them by just kicking them out some chump change. You're not going to get them people. They can go to anywhere in the country and get a good job. They may end up on a jacked up police force like in New York, and even Denver's getting bad. Los Angeles, they're getting bad. You may end up there, but you're going to get paid better. And you stand a chance of getting a lot more good cops than bad cops if you pay them better. If you have to depend on your tickets, people giving people traffic tickets, if you have to depend on that to pay the people who work in Ferguson government, and in some cases a lot of them work for free, they don't even get paid. If that's what you pay for, well, of course, crime is going to go up. Giving tickets to people that they don't deserve is going to go up. That's revenue for the city. That's not to mention, what about property taxes? It's not going to do you any good to raise the property taxes on people who can't afford to pay them. What you will have then is a ghetto. A bunch of empty houses falling down like they do in Detroit. The question is there anything in Ferguson that the rich people would want to come in, knock all them houses down and build something there? Is there anything in Ferguson that's like the Koch brothers would want to own that city? And if not, you've got to vote in somebody who can manage poor people. Because that's what it looks like lives in Ferguson. Poor people. And mostly black. So we shouldn't be shocked that they're poor. That they're black and poor. We shouldn't be shocked by that. But the fact that they don't vote, this is a wake-up call for them. It's their chance to make an impression on the world. To show the world how you pull yourself out of a hellhole and turn things around just by voting. So in November, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if Ferguson got the message. That you can make things happen, but you got to vote. And then again, like I said, you can't vote for people just because they're black. You can't vote for people just because they're a Democrat. But you know, if you vote for a Republican, you've made a bad move. Republicans are not going to help poor people. They're not going to do it. They'll continue to rape and rob. If you vote for a Democrat, you've got a chance. You've got a chance in changing things. But you got to vote. You got to get in there and participate in your government. It's your government. When things go wrong, don't look at the police department and say, hey, they're a crooked police department. Well, did you vote? Oh, that city council, they're all corrupt. Did you vote? Then you find out that most of the people ain't voting. They're just complaining. And now they're on national TV, so they're marching and protesting and dancing and making up a bunch of cute phrases. But did you vote? They need more songs about voting out there. We know why they're out there, okay. Michael Brown, he was the spark. Now you've got national attention. Start talking about voting. Start dancing and singing about get out the vote. We know the cops are corrupt. We see it. It's all over national TV and around the world. We know that. But start dancing and singing about voting. That has to happen. Will it happen? We're going to find out on November 4th. See what's happening in the Denver Post. Okay, let's see. See if this will all move again. Okay. Yeah, it might be a little tricky. You got some pretty powerful races going on in Colorado. The Democrats are fighting hard to control the United States Senate. The Democrats are fighting really hard, so it's really important that we get the Democrats and keep the Democrats in there. And that's like, they're not perfect. Nobody's saying that any one side is perfect. But we know that the Democrats, in theory, if you have to just take it in theory, therefore, the working people, they're for them. And they want to see the rich people charge more taxes. They can balance this economy out. They can get the rich people to pay for job programs because they don't want to pay taxes. We can force them to pay for job programs. We can force them to do community service one way or another. We can force them to pay for some of these police departments that can't pay for themselves. What happens to a lot of these communities is they want to get people in there so bad that they cut off their hand to get them. Come in and set up your business in Ferguson, and you don't have to pay this kind of tax. You don't have to pay that kind of tax. That's what they do. And the people think, well, that's a wonderful thing. They're going to bring jobs. And they give away all of this revenue for a few jobs. They're doing it in New York right now. They've done it all over the country. People say that. And then they run into a tax problem. And then they start raising property value on the poor and the middle class. The taxes for the property. Instead of charging the people who they should have charged in the first place. And then after everything gets set in, people are complaining that these people aren't paying any taxes. Well, you cut them a deal. You're starting to sound like the Iranians and the Syrians and the Iraqis. Once they got you there, the deal changes. Well, the states and the cities are doing that. They get a company to come there, and then they start complaining. They start complaining that they don't have enough taxes. They don't have enough tax money. And then somebody gets the bright idea, well, just raise the property taxes on all of the people. We build stadiums. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that we do with this tax money that the people pay for, when the rich could pay for them stadiums themselves. They're the ones that profit from them. We don't profit from them. And then you still got to buy a ticket. And if you're a vendor, you still got to pay for a license to sell hot dogs and beer and whatnot. You've got to rent space and pay for all of that to make some money in these places. I don't know exactly how that works, how they figure that these stadiums are good for the city. I don't know, but they must be, because they keep building them. And the people who live in the city, their tax dollars pay for a lot of it, if not all of it. And then they sign a contract with these people. They have to stay there 100 years or 50 years or whatever. But I mean, who wouldn't sign a contract to stay in a place for 100 years if you knew for 100 years you were going to get rich, your kids were going to get rich, your grandkids were going to get rich, and their kids were going to get rich? Who wouldn't sign a contract like that and know that you're backed by the city? Of course, unless you live in Detroit. It's a little bit different when the city collapses. A lot of these contracts that they're talking about between the working people should also be void when it comes to the contracts of these people that own these stadiums and some of these other things that private citizens own, that they have a contract with the city. All the contracts have to be voided. But the question is, are they? Are they all voided out? Or are just the ones that help the people voted out and away? But you got to vote. You got to vote the right people in. And like I said, you can't just look at the face and say, oh, he's Hispanic, he's going to be good for us. You can't do that either. You've got to look at their ability to lead, their ability to manage, their vision. They've got to have some vision. Are they going to be able to bring jobs and companies, corporations to the city? And are they going to be able to tax them? Or do they have to make them promises, move to our city and we won't charge you taxes? For, some have a limit on it, 10 years. Some don't put a limit on it. And these companies come and they don't pay taxes. And in some cases they even offer moving expenses. Millions of dollars are given away to these corporations that in the end the taxpayer pays for. There was a time that the property taxes in Denver for the homeowners was really low. They kept them really low because they were getting most of their revenue from the corporations. All the buildings downtown in downtown Denver were paying the lion's share of property taxes. That's where they were getting their money. They didn't need to mug the homeowners that lived in Denver. And then things changed, like in the 70s. A lot of those buildings started to become empty. And when they became empty, that meant they weren't getting any property taxes. So the revenue started to drop. Well, the city managers had to do something. They had to rely on the people again. So they raised the property taxes on the homeowner. And now, I'd say it's hard to live in Denver without paying something like $1,500, $1,600 a year on the smallest home, somewhere like that. A year, $1,500, $1,600 property taxes. You figure you got 1 million homes easy in Denver proper. Plus Denver, has its county, and some of these cities are in Denver County, but they have their own little city. Aurora used to be that way, and I think Denver sold that off. But like we own Denver International Airport, which will be in Denver County, which is basically in Adams County, or what used to be Adams County and got annexed over to Denver County. So there's a bunch of little things that they do to survive. And Ferguson has to do these things. They can't just say that he's black or Hispanic. You can't just do that and then vote for him. Although it is a start. Because I would imagine no matter how you cut it, it's going to be slim pickings in Ferguson to get the right people in there. And then you're going to get, the people that go in. They go into Ferguson and they're hustlers. And they could be black, they could be white, but they're hustlers. They go in there and, they get in there and then they rob the people. So as a voter, that's how important voting is. But it's not just a matter of voting. It's a matter of educating yourself and the people that you vote for. Don't vote for them just because they're black or brown or a woman or gay. Got to find out what they're about. Find out what their skills are to govern. Find out what their history is. That's what you got to do as a voter. It's a responsibility. It's just like your job. You have a responsibility to learn your job. Voting is a job. You have to learn who you're voting for. Learn a little bit. I mean, you don't have to get into all the details of their life. Although it helps, the more you know, the better off you are. It helps. But the most important thing is vote. Because if you want change, you've got to vote for it. And all these protests is getting the spotlight on places like Ferguson. It is getting the spotlight on police brutality and injustice. It is getting that spotlight on them. But it's not going to do any good if you don't vote these people out. You don't vote that mayor out, and then the mayor will appoint a new chief, and you go down that road. But you've got to vote these people out. I don't know when the next mayoral election in Ferguson is. I don't know if they're done registering yet. I don't know if the governor is up for re-election in November, or if they have any senators up for re-election in November. But if I lived in Missouri, I would definitely be finding out. I've been in Florida almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years in February. And I'm already voting. Nina and I are already making decisions of how we want Florida to be. Just because we want it to be this way doesn't mean it's going to be this way. No, I won't be pounding on doors and doing that, but I will be voting. And given the opportunity to talk about the elections to a stranger, I'll do it. But I won't be imposing my views on a stranger. But if I'm sitting there and there's a conversation going on, it looks like I have the opportunity to join the conversation and talk about why I'm a Democrat and why I vote with the Democrats, I'll do it. I'll speak up. And I'll vote. And I'll continue to vote. So, Hillary is going to be in Denver. She'll be campaigning for Mark Udall. That's a good race because that Cory Gardner, he wants to be our senator. He moved up fast. But he's an asshole. And if the Republicans vote him in, or the Democrats jump fence, or the Independents jump fence, and they didn't learn anything over the past 2 years, it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out. CU Boulder avoids Affordable Care Act requirements by limiting student work hours. See, that's how they do it. They right away start cheating. Republicans. They're going to get by not having to pay for health care by limiting student work hours. And that's one of the things that, people say, well, they're both corrupt. But what they don't look at is what actually is being done. What these Republicans are actually doing. And it makes it look like both sides aren't doing anything. But we got the Affordable Care Act in. That's all I wanted out of President Obama. Everything else was a plus. And now we have to fight to keep it in. There's a lot of laws that we had in that the Republicans got voted in and are slowly changing. They're going to have to do something about redistricting. That's a problem. But it's not like the Democrats didn't do it. The Democrats did do it. The Democrats did some redistricting. Both sides do stuff like that. Once you get in there, you've got to stay in there. You've got to win. You've got to take all of the angles. It's a serious business. But there's a lot of things that the Republicans do that make it look like the Democrats aren't doing anything about it. And that's why it's so important to make sure that the Republicans are voted out. I'm Artstarzz. It's October 14th. It's 11:50 a.m. And it looks like the rain stopped. So that's just my opinion. Have a good day.